Welcome back to the SA Weekly Talk Show. Your host, Mike Callahan, with special guest, Tina Servis. I've been waiting, Tina, for probably a couple months to get you on. You are a busy, busy lady, running one, possibly two different cleaning locations, as well as some new things that we're going to be talking about, I'm sure, later today, with your background of where you kind of cut your teeth in the cleaning industry, as well as HR. But I guess this is probably one of the coolest interviews for me. Is Tina's going to give you some background on her cleaning business, but I have never had the pleasure of actually having a guest on the SA Weekly Talk Show where I actually see what they're talking about from a consumer standpoint. So Tina's business, Made for Time in upstate New York, actually cleans my personal residence. So her team was actually here on Wednesday, and we'll talk about some of the things that she's going to be talking about and how they work. But I can tell you, and I'll give some candid feedback. So the pressure's going to be on Tina, but I'll give you some candid feedback of Tina really knows what she's talking about here, because I've seen it firsthand from the consumer standpoint. So Tina, I really appreciate you joining us. I know we got tied up about a month ago with your crazy schedule. We couldn't make it happen, but the floor is yours. But before we really dive into it, Tina, would you mind, if people haven't heard about you and how you're going in and creating the art and science of turning dirt into cash money. How did you cut your teeth in the cleaning industry? And if you wouldn't mind talking about your background in HR and how did you go from HR to cleaning?
Crazy, right?
It's almost as crazy as lawn care to software and consulting, but
I know
those are the pivots that we make. So floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike, for having me. I really appreciate it. Let's see. I started off as an HR director for a company in Rochester, a high-tech company. That's where I kind of got my feet wet in the HR world. That company actually sent me to school to get my bachelor's degree in organizational development and behavior science. I've since gone on and gotten my master's in IO psychology, which is industrial organization. So I definitely have the background of HR. I love HR. I love the psychology component and like getting teams to work, well together. I started my very first business back in 2007. It was a food franchise. And if you're familiar with like Blue Apron or things of that, and Mike, I don't even know if you know this, but it was Make and Take Gourmet. They had a location in Victor and stuff like that. But I did that and started it in 2007. In 2008, the recession happened and bye-bye Make and Take Gourmet. So I had to make a decision. Do I want to go back to the corporate world and get back into HR, or do I want to figure out what I want to do next? So long story short, I was at a cheer competition and I'm a gabber. So I start talking to another mom. And I said, what do you do for a living? And she says, I clean houses. And I said, people pay you for that? Like, she had two heads and she looked at me like I had four. And she said, yeah, people pay me for that. And I said, okay, how much do you make per house? And she's like, $100. I'm like, how many houses do you do a week? And she's like, 10, 12. I'm like, can you teach me how to clean? So off I went in the cleaning industry and cleaned for about 6 months. And I probably cried every day. I did not want to be a cleaner. I wanted to run and own a business. And so after 6 months, I started hiring on people. And, it's definitely, hiring cleaners is way different than hiring PhDs and engineers. But, in this crazy world of recruiting, you have to use the same tactics, So that's how I got started.
Wow. So I wasn't even aware of the food industry. So serial entrepreneur here. So in and out, several different businesses. I believe you sold actually one of your businesses when you got back into HR as well, correct? So you've actually gone through the entire life cycle of actually building a scalable business that can actually run without you and eventually be sold. And then you ended up getting back into cleaning. So if we have some time, maybe we'll touch on that as well.
Sure.
But before we really dive into it, I think at least in the lawn care and home cleaning industry as well, because we're working with hundreds of clients in both industries, amongst other service businesses, the biggest topic right now that I'm seeing, and probably you're seeing, is basically unemployment and the inability to get qualified employees to basically get hired, but let alone get them to show up to an interview. So you're going to be talking about basically this paradigm shift. In my opinion, it's already kind of happening or is happened. But how do we address that and go out and stack that virtual bench? So Jonathan Potoshnik of the Lawn Care Millionaire, co-founder of Servis Autopilot, and I have been talking about going out and recruiting and the tactics to it. But folks, if you're watching this, the game has changed. So some of those things that we talked about 3 to 4 years ago, they're applicable. But Tina is an expert in HR and how to get these people on the phone or in your office or over a screen share to interview them and get them going. So the timing couldn't be any more perfect to actually talk about this. So as we're diving into this, Tina, the first thing that comes to my mind is objective and strategy of actually going out and recruiting. So my guess is if you don't have a strategy, you're probably not going to win the game. You need to know where you're going if you want to get there. So what are your thoughts on that kind of that theory?
Yeah, I mean, you're on point with that. And, we'll come back to the unemployment stuff as we talk about what's in it for them towards the end of this conversation. But I mean, really, if you don't have an outline or a map or a GPS of where you're going and what you want to do, I mean, it's like throwing, spaghetti at the wall. Let's see what sticks. So I always say you have to really have a good recruiting objective and strategy. And a lot of times, corporations will go into this and just go, I need to fill a seat. I need to fill the seat. Like if they're breathing and they have a heartbeat, the mirror, whatever, the breathing.
We've all been there. I mean, if they got a pulse, let's get them on a team. We got to get some work done.
Right. But, you have to be ahead of the curve. So my biggest thing is, and especially with this paradigm shift that's going on, if you don't have a plan in place to be ahead of this recruiting challenges, then you're going to lose out. Like the demand is so high for cleaning right now, and people have a choice. So really getting together, like how many positions do you want to fill? When do you want to have that filled by? How many applicants do you actually want to be filling your funnel and taking up your time? So I think a lot of times what happens is people just want to fill the funnel, right? But what takes the most amount of time is qualifying those individuals. So it's like really being specific of who are you looking for, what type of individual, and putting that plan together, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. So kind of diving into that a little bit deeper. So like if I'm putting that plan together in my lawn care or home cleaning business or any service business. So, I mean, obviously Tina's an expert and she's owned and run several cleaning businesses that are very successful. And absolutely sometimes an absentee owner running some of these businesses out of state, which is mind blowing. So very similar to what we're seeing with a lot of other very successful business owners that have dialed in this HR strategy. But what kind of goals are we setting here, Tina? Are we saying X amount of interviews a week or X amount of applicants? Or I'm assuming that maybe there's a Google Doc or a dry erase board or something. Are we actually setting like this is what our goal is each week or each day? Or what does that look like in a service business right now?
Yeah, totally. So the way that we do it in our business is that I know we hire independent contractors, but that doesn't mean that there's not a time frame to get them from starting to being a good independent contractor, right? And this model works for either employees or ICs. So I know that I have to be 3 weeks ahead, right? So I'm always recruiting for 3 weeks forward. So that means if I bring on 1 or 2 or 3 people, like we just over the past 7 days, I hired 6 people. So I am staggering them throughout the process to make sure that they're trained, that they show up, that they have, good skill set, all of that stuff that goes along. Because if you feel like you're going to bring in one person, and then I'm sure everybody has experienced this, they bring somebody on or they hire them and they don't show up. What's your backup plan? Right? So you have to be ahead of that curve. You have to be ahead of, I know I need someone starting Monday, but you should have been looking for them 3 weeks ago. Right?
So interesting. So you kind of led me to, or almost answered my next question. So you built some redundancy in there. So you're saying if I need to hire one individual, a cleaner or a lawn care tech or pest control tech, it's probably not enough to hire just one person, but you're going to hire 2 or 3 for that position. So the magic number is 3. Awesome.
3.
And along that, I know we're going to kind of talk about identifying who we're recruiting, I'm assuming in this part, but far as that strategy, are you going out for someone potentially with that skill set of a cleaner or a technician in another service industry that has experience, or is it more of a cultural fit as far as like mission, vision, values, or an aptitude for work ethic and detail and honesty? Are those things going through your head when you're going out to create that strategy first?
Yeah. I mean, to your point, I think it's twofold, right? So I can teach cleaning all day long, right? We can teach cleaning, but what we really need is to make sure the culture is set up so that we are getting success with our people, so that we don't have attrition, right? So what I look for in my business is, number one, I would love if they came in with cleaning experience already, right? But if they don't, then I start to look at those other skill sets that work really well in my industry and any customer service type industry. So did they work at a restaurant? Were they like a CNA, or did they work with anyone who had disabilities? Did they work with seniors? So this is all, definitely focused on the cleaning industry or like carpet cleaning. But if they have those customer service skill set, like even working at Lowe's, right? Lowe's or Home Depot or Target, you can find some really good people that have the skill set. I can teach them how to clean all day long. So we definitely look outside of the box, right? And in my industry, again, I mean, I guess if we talk a little bit about the unemployment and the way that the whole pandemic is happening, is that you're going to find that people may have changed jobs frequently. And I remember back, and probably you can relate to this, and most likely everyone listening to this, is that when you were in your, 18, 19, your early 20s, maybe you were a job hopper. I don't know, because you're trying to figure out life at that time. And maybe you did start off as like a waitress and you were like, this is horrible. I can remember working at Champion. Do you remember Champion?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I absolutely hated factory work. And that's where I learned. They tell me when I can go to the bathroom, like, I don't like this. So if you would have looked at my resume back in my early 20s, you would have seen I was a job hopper. So I do take a look at that because, everybody, if they have most of the skill set, I'd like to find out like what happened. Why did they have, 5 jobs over the past 2 or 3 years? Or what were the gaps in their resume? Did they do the whole stay-at-home mom thing or dad thing? You know, so it's just having an open mind, because the resume it's just a snapshot in time.
Gotcha. So are there specific areas that you're suggesting around that? So you've got the Lowe's, the Home Depot, waitressing, a lot of things like there's an avatar or kind of what my ideal client looks like. Are you kind of looking like, so what does my avatar or the demographic, like where that ideal cleaner, that ideal lawn care guy or girl looks like? So like, I know a lot of the folks that work for us at Callahan's throughout the years, they were really big into the outdoors and fishing and hunting.
Yeah.
Now, my idea of roughing is the Holiday Inn because there's not room service. Let's just face it. The guys are pretty bananas sometimes.
I'm with you.
So, so that's just kind of like me. But the majority of the guys and girls that we hired had a thrill for the outdoors. They like doing that. They're working outside. So I'm assuming in the cleaning industry, there may be a certain avatar that you're going after. So I'm curious if you kind of peel the levels back. Is there an ideal avatar that you're kind of going after? And that'll probably lead into my next question of probably like, okay, now that if we do have an avatar, maybe we want to see where that avatar is hanging out to go find those people. But I guess the first question is, do you have a kind of an avatar that you imagine, like maybe crazy enough to like, hey, this is Jill. This is what Jill does during the day. This is what Jill's activities likes to do. Like, these are the kind of people Jill hangs out with. Do we actually have a name to that avatar? Or is it just, do you have something that is tangible that you can think about when you're going out and looking for those people?
Yeah. So we just made an avatar named Jill.
All right, there we go. Making it happen,
Jill
folks.
is, in my industry, we're open to either full-time or part-time. And that's part of that paradigm shift that we'll talk about again towards the end with what's in it for them. And I'll dig deeper into that. But let's just take Jill as she wants to work a full-time schedule, but her full-time for her is she wants to work 9 to 3. Okay. For me, I don't care. I mean, 9 to 3 is fine with me. But she's got to have really good customer service. She's got to be punctual. She's got to care, right? So they want to go in and make a difference in people's lives, and they find satisfaction in that. So again, going back to like, what are the other types of jobs they may or may not have been doing? Those types of jobs are going to be your customer service. They're going to be your restaurant workers. They're going to be bartenders. They're going to be individuals that may be working with seniors, right? So seniors is a good one. I have found when I bring on someone that was working with seniors, they love working with the seniors, but the younger ones, so the individuals that are in their 20s and 30s that are working with them, they're getting bored working with the seniors. But the older ladies, the 40, 50, 60, I guess if that's older, whatever. We won't define that too much.
Let's not age this side of the pit camera, at least.
Yeah. Those individuals are, they're very satisfied with working with seniors because it's their pace, right? Where the younger individuals are like, I'm bored, like, let's go. I need to keep moving. And actually, that's another point. I have hired some people that were office workers, and the reason that they wanted to come and do a cleaning position is because they couldn't stand sitting in a chair all day, 8 hours a day. I can share with you, my daughter has been cleaning with me since I started the business, and I can tell you that she will never work in an office. She's very much like athletic. She's going to be out on the field. She's going to school for sports psychology. So she's not going to sit at a desk. It's not going to make her happy. So I guess if you were going to define that avatar, it's an active person that's, and, with the resumes, you will find that some people are coming from a desk job and they want to transition because they're like, they can't stand it,
Interesting. So, you mentioned one thing I wanted to hit on, because this is a hot topic in pretty much every service industry or vertical that we interact and work with and talk to in the SA community, is that you mentioned ICs, independent contractors, basically a 1099 contractor. But I've got to assume, so if you're saying this works for your 1099 or IC contractor, we're going out, I'm assuming, and you've had internal employees before as well, or for other businesses you work for. Is it the same approach for an IC, an independent contractor, 1099 versus employee, or is there, and obviously you work with companies helping them do this. So is there a different approach or any fine, subtle things that we should be aware of if we're doing contractors, employees, or is it pretty much the same people are people?
So I think my philosophy is the approach is the same. Legally, there's different things that you have to do from a Department of Labor and federal law, but again, with this paradigm shift, you can't be old school anymore. Old school is like, gone are the days of the IBM suits and ties, right? Those have been gone for a while. Right. But now we're even going to this next level where people really want flexibility. They don't want to work 40 hours a week. And I'm okay with that, right? And if you take that from an employee standpoint, it's not gonna have a negative impact on your workers' comp, your disability, your unemployment. It's not going to affect it because workers' comp is, pay as you go 99% of the time. Your disability is the same thing. Are you counting them as a full-time or a part-time? And then the unemployment is the same thing. So you're only going to be rated if they file for unemployment based on whatever. So bringing on someone that only wants to work 2 days a week might be your best cleaner ever. So from the philosophy or legal standpoint, yeah, there's a bunch of differences between IC and employee, but from a recruiting standpoint, my philosophy is no, you can utilize that same hiring tactic. You just have to change your mindset on if you're only doing full-time, you might want to start thinking about having much more flexible schedule for them.
That's interesting. And then obviously working with some of the top cleaning companies, I get that. So coming from the lawn care industry, like my initial knee-jerk reaction before working with the cleaning industry would be like, whoa, wait a minute. We've got 2 guys or girls on a truck, and that's, 4 or 5 day schedule. How do I do that? But I honestly, and without mentioning names, some of the lawn care companies and pest control companies that we're working with are actually scheduling in part-time workers to fill that gap, just like you are. Now, most cleaning companies, from my experience, and you obviously would have just as much experience, are usually solo cleaners. So if you're from the lawn care industry or pest control industry, stay tuned, because some of the most important things I've learned in my business journey has been from the home cleaning industry. So their perspective and vice versa. Some of the cleaning folks have learned from the lawn care people, because it's the same thing, but it's a different perspective. But I think as someone coming from the lawn care industry, I would highly suggest, if you're watching this, open your mind up, because what Tina is talking about right now is working for a lot of the lawn care and pest control companies. Now, you may say, how do you bridge that gap, Mike? Well, what we're seeing with a lot of them that are being successful is they're creating on-demand floaters that are on call that can be close to your shop or wherever you guys go. Within 10 to 15 minutes, they can be there. Is it ideal if you have a no-call, no-show? No, but you still get 8 to 10 hours worth of work getting done. And I'm assuming, Tina, if you do a deep clean or top to bottom deluxe, and for our lawn care friends, that's our initial clean. That gets everything set up, very similar to like a spring cleaning before you have your maintenance clean. But your deep clean is going to be the baseboards, wiping down the shades, where maintenance clean is just your reoccurring maintenance clean. Are you still handling that? A deep clean, is that still a solo cleaner if you have a compressed availability, or are you hitting it with 2 solos, hitting that deep cleaner top to bottom deluxe?
We always do 2. It's just too much for one person. Sometimes we'll even do 3 if it's a really large home. But yes, to your point, we always put 2 on it.
Okay. And then the next question, kind of diving into it, was really great start. Awesome stuff. Is how are you reaching them? How do you find them? And where else may this demographic hang out? So you've kind of defined that avatar. You've mentioned like the Lowe's, the Home Depot. But is there particular areas to a employee or an IC or a 1099 that you're finding a better area to look for? Like, is it potentially in the lawn care industry, like we would go to our vendors, because that would be a great place where they hung out. And we'd find if they were disgruntled. In the cleaning industry specifically, because that's where you're at, is there, and actually it wasn't with you, but I've had male cleaners in here. So it's not necessarily, it's stereotypical that it's a female cleaner, because it can be either one. Right. If you're watching this and you've never worked with a cleaner, but is there certain areas that demographic or avatar potentially hang out, whether it's online or offline? Like, where are you finding that most talent pool at? I mean, maybe we're going to Lone Star and having dinner and scoping some waiters and waitresses out. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. And I will share that there's some other cleaning companies out there that have a card, that like a business card that says, you know, you're wonderful. So they may have noticed someone like a waitress or whatever at a restaurant that they thought had phenomenal customer service, and they hand them the card and say, hey, you know, reach out to us. We'd like to talk to you a little bit more about, you know, coming to work for us. So I definitely keep your eye. I mean, like fast food restaurants, right? I mean, you can find some amazing people there. I think for us, we do we advertise on Indeed and Facebook. So on Indeed, you have to get extremely creative with your ads, right? So the ad that I just posted said, we're currently looking for time savers and family finders. I think that's what I put on as the headline. So it basically, and then it said professional cleaners, right? And then I explained in that ad, hey, listen, if you like seeing the results of your work and your customer saying to us, you literally have changed my life, then we want to hear from you. You're the kind of person, you know, that we want to talk to. So I hope that answered your question.
No, it's exactly what I'm looking for, because it let's face it, whether you're Facebook, you're Indeed, you know, Craigslist, whatever that is, like it's inundated right now. It's almost like the home market. I don't know if the rest of the nation's like this, but in upstate New York right now, there is no supply for the demand of houses. So like literally some of these houses are going 70, 80,000 above like what they're worth. Like eventually it's going to drop out. But that's kind of what we're seeing right now in the labor market. There is no supply for the demand of labor. So you've got to stick out. You've got to be different. And I think that kind of gets into one of my final questions is, I'm assuming it's not about us, the employer, anymore, because we've got to go out and court these people. We've got to get them, and we've got to be different. So, Tina, what's in it for them? Why do they want to come work for Made for Time as an IC? And why are you different than the company down the street that's paying the same or maybe more? Like, how can you provide something different to attract these rock star cleaners you got in the house? I know you had one of your new cleaners training here at the house this week, and she was phenomenal. I mean, not to get into
Thank you.
details, but I mean, like, I think she was training her on a top to bottom or deep clean. I mean, she was on her hands and knees, like literally spit shining the molding on the floor. And like, I know that's not part of the maintenance clean, but the main cleaner that was training her, like, was literally running her through. And I wasn't trying to be all up in her business, but I popped up from the basement office just to check it out, because I've heard about the way you train your cleaners, and it's consistent product and fulfillment each time. Like, it's unbelievable. So I kind of wanted to take a sneak peek out of your playbook to see, like, what were you doing with these cleaners to make this work? But you said you just hired three or six new cleaners, like
Six,
So
because I'm ahead of the curve, right?
So what did you do? What is in it for that girl that was literally for 45 minutes on her hands and knees killing herself with a smile and saying hello to me? So what was in it? What's the secret sauce there?
Yeah, so Avery is her name. And Avery, I found her at a restaurant. So so we'll just talk about New York for a little bit. So New York, with the pandemic, a lot of restaurants have been challenged, right, to say the least. So
extremely.
Yeah,
COVID is alive and well in upstate New York, as far as restaurants and bars. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and she needs to work, right? And she's not afraid of hard work. And I knew what's so funny is, like, when I called her, I mean, I've been doing recruiting for so long, I think you can just tell if somebody's going to be a good candidate or not. So on the phone, I could tell. Like, I didn't even need to do a Zoom interview with her, but I did, right? But with her, I could just tell on the phone that she wants to work, she likes to work, she has great customer service. But if we talk about what's in it for them, so the HR community, which I'm still very much a part of, specifically in Rochester and around the country, but specifically in Rochester, people have choices right now, right? So if we're talking about employees, they have a choice. Without getting into the politics of unemployment, what we know is that the federal government has extended unemployment out until the end of the year. Okay, so that means people can be a little more selective because they have, I guess you could say, some people have a cushion, right, when it comes to choosing what they want to go and do. And the other thing is, they are challenged with balancing working from home, having their kids not in school full time, which I know that some schools are starting to get, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
My hairline is receding in front of every Facebook Live as we go weekly here. So good news is the kids are going back next week.
Right? So they really have a choice when it comes to selecting who do they want to go and work for, and they're being more picky, right? Fine, let them be picky. So you have to figure out what's in it for them. And each person is going to have a different, what's in it for them. But in my industry, what I've seen in Rochester is they want a flexible schedule. They don't want, and this is going to probably really bother people who have employees, but I'm just going to share with you, when I was in HR way back, okay, in the early 2000s, we offered flexible schedules to all of our employees. So whether they were an assembler or they were one of the engineers, we said, I don't care what time you show up to work, as long as you get the work done, right? But that means once you commit to a schedule, you're committed to it, right? So if you say you're going to be here at 9 o'clock, I expect you here at 9 o'clock every day. That's our schedule. So that's what word on the street is that people are looking for that flexibility. But I think the other thing that's really important, I'm going to read from my screen here. So they did a survey on talent and people looking for positions. And I have two statements that I'm going to read. So one of them came from somebody was a candidate, and their response was, they called me, they, the company, they called me regularly to see if I had any questions. That showed they were really interested in me. So even if it's you hired them, right? What's your follow-up process after you've brought them on board? So most people just go, oh, they're living, they're breathing, they're working, they're filling what I need to have done. But what you forgot about is them, right? Yep. So when's the last time you reached out to a new hire and said, hey, how's it going? What can we be doing differently? How was your first week? Right? You got to be on top of it, because if not, they're going to be like, you're just another employer. Why do I want to work for you? Why do I want to scrub a toilet versus going to work at McDonald's where I don't have to scrub any toilets? Right?
Yeah, it's true. And I cut my
Yeah.
teeth in scrubbing toilets. So I did some commercial office cleaning. I don't know if you knew that, but I was the break room in the restrooms, and that was eye-opening, but it paid for spring break. So it was okay.
Yeah.
So it was a battle, but we got through it. But I do have some respect for that. I get it. And you've got to have a process and system to standardize it. So one of the things you hit on there was interesting is like, you've got to, even after you hire them, they're still got the opportunity to go work somewhere else. And that first 60 to 90 days is just like a new client. That's the biggest like churn or cancellation, or they're going to leave. So Jill's on the SimpleGrowth team just started this Monday. I've spent 3 hours with him over the last 2 days, and the conversation between 5 and 5:15 after work, he's like, hey, can you touch base with me? While I was picking the kids up, like, was that honestly the thing I absolutely wanted to do? I did, because I respect Jill's and he joined the team and I wanted to be successful, but I needed to let him know that, yeah, as the business owner, the strategic objective person driving the vision of this company is, I care about you. What's the issue? It wasn't an issue. Right. He just wanted to give me some feedback. He had some questions, and the guy was great. But it's interesting what you mentioned there. And going from the lawn care company to when we sold, I think we had 19 or 20 trucks out that we ended up, selling with after the business was sold itself, to SimpleGrowth. Now we're up to 15 or 17 employees. We've just hired 4 people in the last, like in Q1. And Jill's was one of the last hires there, but people are people. I don't care about the industry. I don't care if they're a subcontractor. People are people, and they have basic needs. But if I had waited till like the next day to call Jill's, then it probably may have been a bad reflection of myself as a leader in the company and how we engage with our team. But it was literally, the cool thing is he was like, hey, what is the expectation since it's remote work? Can I leave to go to Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons to get a coffee in my 15-minute break? Do I still need to be available? Right. But I was like, we found somebody. This guy could definitely be part of the team because he gets it. He's being proactive, and it's that customer service, internal and external. So, I mean, that's really cool that you mentioned that. And it is shifting. So a lot of people, and without getting into the individual, because they are really related in the SA ecosystem right now, is our other hire wanted some flex time around the things going on in their lives with their kids, and that was the biggest biggest
deal breaker.
Now, they knew the team, they knew the culture, and they're a really good fit. But I've got to imagine they haven't come out and exactly said that, but that seemed to be a big sticking point. I'm like, listen, you fit the culture, you've got the work ethic, I could trust you, and you fit with the culture, and you know the team, and you've used our services, so you know what we're about, not what we stand for. But if you need some flex time for an hour or two on certain set days, like you said, it's not wide open, like, hey, I'm going to take a half day because I feel like it. But whatever that conversation is, and these are the times I need to flex in, great. And then we'll know we make it up and you're available in these times. But I think we need to get creative in this time. And Tina, you're on it. I mean, I can't thank you enough for coming on, but I think, like, if you're watching this, no matter your industry, Tina's nailing it right now. And this is the biggest thing.
If I can add one thing, Mike, that I would say, I'll probably add more than one, just saying. Ooh. What I would say is the most important thing, and I learned this when I was an HR director, is you have to treat your employees like they're a customer, right? So they are your internal customer. First of all, they're the face of your business. They are the first thing that the client sees. And if you have to treat them like they're a customer, right? They're not like this person that you get to, dictate or whatever. And believe me, some companies are like that, right?
Oh yeah.
But you have to, so I surveyed my cleaners a couple of weeks ago, and the first 2 questions were, why do you work why are you a partner with Made for Time? And why do you stay? Right.
So let me guess. One of the major reason was not money, because after you hit those general needs and you satisfy them, which I didn't believe in the early days.
That's right.
Money is not a motivator. And like, I just scratch my head, and like, full transparency on the SimpleGrowth team, we've sent some pretty hefty Amazon gift cards to our team members. And the first thing I say is, this is to acknowledge, and we thank you for what you're doing. But I understand if it's been a rough couple months because we've been growing fast, this is not going to fix that problem. This is an acknowledgement, but money is not going to fix the problem. but I'm letting you know I know where you're at and I
Yep.
know where you're going, and I'm there for you. But this is just an acknowledgement. Money on that card has nothing to do with it. And literally, they've straight up said, like, yeah, like that could have been $1,000 gift card. It wouldn't have moved the needle.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the case.
Yeah. Everybody's motivating factor is different, but to your point, money is usually not the determining factor. Yep. Right. And everybody has their own thing, and your culture, setting up your culture if you don't have a culture, you need a culture. So, right.
Have you read the book? And so this book, The Dream Manager?
No.
Okay. So The Dream Manager, if anybody's watching live or recorded, this is a book you really want to take a look at. But The Dream Manager was actually based on a cleaning business. So I had the pleasure of going out to another automation software platform before we automated and before Servis Autopilot ever had automations, but it was originally Infusionsoft, and it was Infusionsoft by Keep. But the point where I'm going here is they had this gentleman, he's been on the SA Weekly talk show. I got to get him back. Really salty the earth kind of guy. But Dan Ralph's full-time job inside this company was the Dream Manager. And they had a big wall, and it was a chalkboard. And you could literally write down your dream. And as long as it wasn't to be a competitor of this company, and if you wanted to be a competitor, like, well, that wasn't a good culture fit, you probably need to leave anyways. But if it was like literally to go on vacation or pay off your debt or go back to school, it didn't matter what it was. But Dan's full-time job was to take that individual and meet with them and set goal setting and get them to achieve their goals. But their thought process, and this was 5-6 years ago, maybe more than that, but it's more relevant than ever. And Tina, you've hit on it, is if we can align with our internal clients, our basically our employees' dreams and aspirations and what they need as far as flexible work and things like that, let's face it, they're not going to stay with Made for Time forever. They're not going to stay with our company forever. We've got probably a 3 to 5, maybe 6 year shelf life. But I'll tell you what, when you're aligning to them and you care about them and you show them that, while they're there during their flex time of their normal hours, they're going to give you 110%. And that was the secret sauce in that business for a long time, that Dream Manager specific job was to care about those employees from literally day one when they came in and signed their contract to their exit interview. And I think that was one of the biggest success things that I took and tried to build into my lawn care company before we got acquired. So
I'll share this with you as well, is that, so I work about 4 hours a week in the business right now, with the exception of what I did with the recruiting over the past 7 days. Well, it's been 2 weeks now, but over the past couple of weeks, I can tell you that once we get our new cleaners onboarded, which is about a 3 to 6 week time frame, we almost never hear from them. And that's okay with me, right? Because that tells me everything is going fine. My customers are going to give me the feedback that I need and let me know, do I need to reach out? Do I need to talk to this cleaner? What's going on? If I don't hear from them, it's an amazing day. And not because I don't want to talk to them. That just means we're doing something right.
Love it. Appreciate it. I know you've got a compressed schedule. I've got to hop on a call in a few minutes, but you said quality, and you really, like, before like the issue pops up. And the one thing I love, I got to give a big shout out to Martha Woodward, another certified advisor from SA. QDS, quality driven softwares. I'm loving being on the consumer end and filling out my QDS surveys and pumping out those reviews for those Google reviews that she's got going. Your team has got nothing but 5-star reviews. They are awesome. What you're doing as far as recruiting, bringing players in. I know a lot of times at the QDS conference, or when I had a full day talk with Debbie Sardone before one of the QDS conferences, or even the SA talks, we talk about integrity and honesty. And I will tell you, like, a lot of times cleaners in the training, I think it was Liz Trotter talked about the honesty test, where they plan a $20 bill in the master bedroom before the cleaner goes in. And it's like, do they leave it based on the training, or do they put it in the nightstand, or whatever that is? I will tell you, I have literally left a large amount of cash out by mistake for getting there, and like literally in plain sight, and they have left it. So the integrity in the HR, the process you're doing is spot on. So I want to thank you and congratulate you on that. So Tina, if people want to learn about HR, the new paradigm shift, how do we get ahead of this chaos that's already attacking our service business, whether it's lawn care, home cleaning, obviously your specialties in home cleaning. But I think this is really applicable to any service business. How do people reach out to you? And do that?
They can reach me at my email address is info at tinaservis.com, and my last name is spelled a little funky, so TINASERVIS.com. So info at tinaservis.com, and I will be doing a masterclass on this too. So if anyone is interested in that, let me know. Send me over an email. Give me a call. I can go post it someplace, my phone number, but info at tinaservis.com.
Yeah, we can post it myself, or I've got to hop on a call. But if you hop on the Facebook Live and put it in the bottom, I'll make sure it's on the different places we plaster it. But info at tinaservis.com. Check it out, folks. Tina runs the AR. She's got the education, the background, and the real life experience. And to watch somebody scale multi-7-figure businesses with an HR background, like I said, don't reinvent the wheel. Go find somebody who's been there and done that. And that will help you scale that business. And this pain point's not going anywhere, in my opinion. I think it's only going to get worse. So, Tina, I thank you for joining us. Go check out Tina's mastermind, info at tinaservis.com. SA Weekly Talk Show is going to be coming back to you at our normal time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, right here, Facebook Live, with another expert coming on, Jonathan Comrell of the CBF coaching squad over from Debbie Sardone. So Jonathan's famous for dropping the mic. So I'm sure Jonathan will be dropping the mic several times next week. And he is hot off the presses from the Dallas Fort Worth CBF Live, where, probably 300, maybe 400 cleaning professionals met together. But if you're looking at HR and the masterminds, check Tina out. I personally endorse her after seeing what's going on with the cleaners at my place. So we'll see you again, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, SA Weekly Talk Show, Mike Callahan.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tina.